Hello everyone, today we're taking you to what's considered one of the best Italian restaurants in Las Vegas. Just a few minutes north of the Strip, so somewhat off the beaten path, yet right in the heart of our ever-growing, hip and trendy arts district. Named best restaurant in Las Vegas many times over, this place is still one of those little haunts, considered one of the gems of we Vegas locals. We've now been here a few times, and the place was packed within moments of opening. Overhearing the conversations of those in line with us, it seemed to be mostly Las Vegans with a smattering of out-of-towners. Esther's Kitchen is the brainchild of the award-winning Chef Tree. Obviously, Chef Tree has quite the following here in Vegas. We got to know a woman at the table next to us, named Pompeia. After taking just one bite of the bread, she exclaimed,
"God bless you, Chef Tree, and the work you are doing. You are no less than a santo."
Everything here is made from scratch, from the breads to the pastas to the desserts. Pure, simple indulgences come together to make cohesive recipes that have an element of old-world quality and yet also a touch of modern flair. Well, maybe a little more than a touch, sometimes bordering on being overly pretentious with verbose menu descriptions, seemingly purposefully meant to confuse and intimidate. Fortunately, the staff is well-versed and friendly and can help you understand each dish. So you can put away your Esther's to English culinary dictionary. Well, all that aside, let's get to it and see what we think. We started off the meal with a loaf of homemade sourdough bread, served with good olive oil and fresh sweet butter. This popular appetizer can be seen at almost every table, and with one taste, you'll know why. I've been eating sourdough bread my entire life. It's one of my favorites. And this bread is above and beyond most. The crust is wonderfully crispy, and the flavor is uber tart, which makes it unique and outstanding. I could come here for just this bread alone, with one or two of the 8 possible spreads they offer, and be totally satisfied. But we tried all 8 spreads for this review, just one of those sacrifices we make for you. Well, let's run through all the 8 spreads. Our first spread has anchovy, butter, capers, and parsley. It reminds me of a Caesar salad dressing in compound butter form, so what's not to like? It's topped with white anchovies, and I absolutely love this combination. There's nothing better than a good Caesar to start off a meal, and without reservation, I totally recommend this anchovy butter. It's fantastic. On a common theme, andouille is another item typically used as an enhancer in many Italian dishes, but here is turned into the star of the show. It's a sausage in spread form. It's from the Calabrian region of Italy. This is something that's crave-worthy and very rich in umami. Made from ground fatty pork and pureed peppers, it has a very robust, unique quality to it. Once it was next to impossible to find in this country, but now available in most Italian import shops. Or if you're daring enough, you can make it yourself at home. Thanks to the internet, you can find a recipe for almost anything online these days, and some of them are actually good. Here we have just a perfect combo. I love basil. I grow it at home in my garden and use it in so many recipes. I never get tired of fresh basil and its wild minty flavor. This spread is an emulsification of basil, ricotta, oil, and fresh herbs. How could that not be good? If I were to return to have just the bread and one spread, this would be one of the contenders. It goes so well on this fresh hot sourdough. This is one of those foods I've been hooked on for years. Imagine the marriage of a rich Roquefort cheese and a soft, ripe brie. Well, then you have Cambozola cheese. This bread is so wonderfully delicious and unique. It also has candied pecans and pickled grapes, and a sweet and tart balsamic vinegar reduction mixed in. Just tremendous. I love and can't get enough of burrata. It's a fresh mozzarella cheese that's mixed with heavy cream to give it a velvety smooth texture, and the chives and basil really impart a powerful flavor that I'm loving with this crispy, crusty bread. It plays so well together. I'm not going to lie, a Alone, this spread reminds me of cold, fresh out of the can, pureed, refried beans. And the prosciutto and pistachio flavors are totally lost in it. But mixed with other elements, such as the burrata or cambazola cheese spreads, it works and is pleasurable to the palate. This is definitely not a spread I would order on its own. I'm a huge fan of pâté of almost any kind of liver, and this is no exception. It's smooth, creamy, and delightfully seasoned. If I had but one spread to choose here, it would be this one. The flavors are subtle and rich, with a creamy, melt-in-your-mouth texture. Add in the perfect amount of salt and a hint of sweet from the saba and strawberries, and it's audaciously delicious. I love roasted beets, but sadly, this was not my favorite spread. It was a little chunky for my liking and not roasted enough to bring out the natural sweetness of the beet. The capers, saba, and Calabrian are also lost in this recipe. Many times I complain that dishes we review are forgettable. Well, it would have been better if this had been forgettable. Well, these spreads, with the one exception, are delicious, and I think you can see our point about the menu being verbose and confusing. Take spread 7. Fagottini comes from fegato, the Italian word for liver. Then chicken liver. Then foie gras, which is fattened goose liver. What? I'm baffled by what this all means, and I didn't detect any foie gras in this spread anyway. To me, it seemed like chicken liver pâté, which I love, but this type of thing abounds on the menu at Esther's Kitchen. Well, I guess so long as it's delicious, we can overlook these grandiose and confusing menu descriptions. Bacon, sherry, vinaigrette, hazelnuts, Grand Noir blue cheese, and of course, peach slices. I'm a huge fan of Radicchio, endive, or any bitter green for that matter. This is a classic 80s tribute-style salad you'd find in almost any nice restaurant reinvented these days. The sherry vinaigrette is always a good palate cleanser, and I love the toasted hazelnuts. They give it a slightly burnt taste and really play well off the salty, creamy blue cheese. The peach doesn't add much to this salad. I would have preferred strawberries or apples to give it a bolder flavor, but nevertheless, we enjoyed it, and I'd totally recommend this salad. Spaghetti with pomodoro sauce. It's a constant on the menu. Other items come and go with the seasons, or just come and go for good. Well, I have to say that this is a great dish. It's made in the traditional way that I also prepare, the same way generations of Italians have prepared pomodoro sauce. Garlic, in this case roasted garlic, is sautéed in a pan with olive oil, good olive oil. This process is called perfuming. Once the garlic flavor has infused into the oil, fresh ground tomatoes that have gone through a press are added along with basil and salt, and voila, there you have it. Chef Tree goes a little light on the salt and cheese for my taste, so we asked for more. They don't offer you more cheese, and salt will not be found at your table. This tastes exactly like my mother's and my sauce, and that, my friend, is the highest compliment I ever give. They don't provide you a large portion, but then again, you know we have bigger appetites than most. But since we have much food left to eat on this trip, the portion size was okay. If not for that, I would be dissatisfied with the serving size. Where portion size is concerned, Esther's borders on being nouvelle cuisine, which is a polite way of saying, don't expect food in abbondanza. Carbonara's true origin is unknown. It's thought to have originated in Rome or the Lazio region, but there's much speculation on this. There's also a lot of speculation about how to make it properly. Many chefs are only concerned with the Rome and Lazio region's preparation style. In the United States, cream is commonly added, which can get the unyielding authenticity types hot under the collar. At Esther's, they mostly adhere to the Rome and Lazio style. It has all the classic elements: whipped eggs, pork cooked in fat, and finely ground cheese. Here, using egg yolk, guanciale, and grana padano, mixed into a sauce with a little salt and pepper. The one exception is the addition of snap peas. I have to be frank with you though, I liked Esther's carbonara, However, it lacked seasoning, and I could have used a lot more cheese. The carbonara was fresh, but void of complexity and depth of flavor. I do appreciate that they make the pasta homemade. However, all in all, the dish is a little bland and could use salt and more pepper as well. I'd also leave off the snap peas if I were to order it again. This duck confit pizza, very sophisticated and avant-garde. It reminded me of some of the dishes of the 80s. Your server would tell you about some crazy dish such as glazed balsamic strawberry venison served with morning glory croquettes in a cucumber reduction. What? This is part of the pretentiousness we alluded to in the intro. We actually didn't order this pizza. It was served to us by mistake, and that may be the only way they can move this dish. Our server apologized since we had ordered the Margherita Pizza, and we felt bad, so we decided to keep it. Being a pizza lover, this combination sounded very wrong. While interesting, this is not what I think of when I think of pizza. I absolutely adore duck confit. In fact, I made a wonderful duck and cherry Cumberland sauce in my restaurant, and this reminds me very much of it. I learned how to make it in my youth from Siegfried, the owner of the famed restaurant The Bungalow. However, I don't think it translates into pizza form. Did I hate it? No. Did I love it? No. I felt the combination of duck and sweet cherry were a little off-putting in the context of pizza. While I love sweets, this was much too sweet for a pizza. I also wish they had left off the spinach entirely. This was, in my opinion, a huge fail and disrupted the idea of the sweet and savory combination. In addition, it's well above the other pizzas in price. I'd say I would never order this again, but then I never ordered it in the first place. Okay, finally the pizza we ordered has arrived. It's made with a 3-day sourdough crust, Pomodoro sauce, roasted garlic, local mozzarella, and fresh basil. Was this the end-all, be-all of pizza? No, but it wasn't horrible and satisfied my pizza craving. If we weren't doing a review, I'd never have ordered a pizza here because I'm not a fan of sourdough crusted pizza. I would say this was some of the best sourdough I've had, but sourdough crust, while tender and full of air pockets, never quite hits the mark for we thin crust Neapolitan pizza lovers. Esther's pizza was doughy and more like a very nice bready pizza. It seemed in an attempt to get the crispiness which excellent crust achieves. They left it in the oven too long and the undercarriage was charred and had a lingering bitterness that was most unpleasant. The sauce was also undersalted. So, all in all, very good roasted garlic, fresh mozzarella and basil, but crust that missed the mark, under-seasoned sauce, and a lingering bitter aftertaste removes Esther's from my list of go-to pizza places. This dish, Radiatore Al Limone, reminds me of something you'll find in a little cafe somewhere in Rome on a beautiful spring day. It's a very creative and fresh dish. Black garlic, lemon, cream, chives, and breadcrumbs. I love the creaminess of the sauce and the surprising bright, tart taste of the lemon. The breadcrumbs in this dish take the place of cheese and are really a nice texture to bite into as the bread retains the sauce. The chives tasted as if they were dried and honestly didn't do much in this dish. It could just as well have been parsley and I wouldn't have noticed a difference. I make a very similar sauce, but I really love the black garlic. Black garlic really isn't an Italian thing. It comes from Asian culture. The garlic is aged by allowing moistened garlic to sit for a long period of time in a controlled environment. It has a very deep, rich umami flavor. This recipe has many similar notes in common with the ricotta sauce. We love the homemade pasta here. It's perfectly al dente. I always feel that homemade pasta absorbs any sauce you put with it, much more than dried pasta. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against the use of dried pasta. They're so different from each other and delicious in their own way. They each have a time and place. Anyway, this dish was a true delight, and I highly recommend you get this when you eat at Esther's. Chitarra Verde. So, anchovy, parsley, lemon, chili, roasted garlic, and breadcrumbs. This dish tasted very similar to the Radiatore Al Limone, which I really enjoyed, so that's a good thing. We noticed right away that the pasta was a tad undercooked. I also couldn't detect the parsley in it. Fortunately, it wasn't so undercooked that it was inedible, so I didn't send it back. The sauce was sensational, nice and tart from the lemon, and a great flavor from the anchovy. The anchovy wasn't too fishy, it just gave it a sort of umami richness and saltiness. Breadcrumbs, again, were meant to take the place of cheese, but we ended up adding quite a bit of cheese as well. The chili was in the form of oil, and it added very little to the dish other than to serve as a colorful garnish. I'd be happy to have this pasta anytime. It's delicious. And when you eat at Esther's, you'll definitely want to include it in your meal. If you're wondering, the name, chitarra, comes from the tool used to make the pasta, as it resembles a chitarra, that's Italian for guitar. The Little Gem Caesar is a well-balanced salad. Our server informed us they play classical music while hand-rubbing each leaf of lettuce individually with the dressing. I guess the lettuce needs a little stress reduction before its debut in front of the guests. I wonder if the chef also whispers sweet nothings into its ears. This method reminds me of the people we hired straight out of culinary school. One day we were getting ready for a rush, and I went into the kitchen and found our employees slowly and deliberately tearing off each leaf of parsley from the stalk, as a star-crossed lover would delicately tear off the petals from a flower. He loves me not. I told her we're in a rush to get ready for our dinner crowd, and showed her how to chop massive amounts of parsley with a knife in one fell swoop. This Caesar is made with little gem lettuce, which is essentially a combination of baby romaine and butter leaf lettuce. For my liking, I prefer adult chopped romaine lettuce. The little gem doesn't provide the crispy inner part of the crunchy greens I crave in a Caesar salad to give it the right texture. I didn't care for the oil from the anchovy strewn around the plate as a type of garnish. It tasted terrible. The dressing was a true Caesar and a good one, but I've had so many better Caesars here in Vegas, I wouldn't order this again here. Zucca alla Zozzona. Well, Zucca means pumpkin or squash. Zozzona means dirty. Right off the bat, not so appealing, but it was by far my favorite pasta we had. Our server told us this is intended to be a type of pasta dish you'd throw together after coming home in a drunken stupor, haphazardly putting together anything to eat from leftovers in the kitchen. I think our server may have been recovering from such a night, since this dish is $19 on the menu, yet we were charged $21. It tasted like a pink pasta alla vodka with bacon and, as with almost everything else, roasted garlic. This may not be the most beautiful dish here, probably won't make the cover of Bon Appetit magazine, but the homemade pasta, which was the Radiatore, was wonderful and reminded me of gnocchi in a creamy tomato sauce. I could eat this pasta anytime. I love it. Okay, time for desserts. Well, I'm always on the hunt for decadent chocolate. Our server recommended against their one chocolate dessert and suggested the Butterscotch Budino. So that's what we did. My mother was a butterscotch addict, and so I have a lot of experience with butterscotch. Wow, what a great dessert this is. Whiskey caramel, honeycomb, and whipped cream. Budino is the Italian word for either custard or pudding. This budino was a little softer than I'm used to. It was more the texture of a creme anglaise. There were extraordinarily strong notes of butterscotch made from the combination of burnt butter, whiskey, and brown sugar, melted together until they formed a light caramel sauce, which was used for the topping. The creme anglaise was smooth and sweet, and also had a light caramel and whiskey flavor. I must say that this is a spectacular recipe. One thing though, I could barely taste the honeycomb. There are just a few crumbs used as a garnish atop the whipped cream. It's too bad they're lost among the other strong flavors, as I love honeycomb, and it would have added a lot to the dish to have larger pieces. Well, anyway, I would highly recommend getting this. You're going to love it. Esther's has a warm, beautiful, and inviting atmosphere. It's a fun place to be and to be seen. As for the Italian food, I liked many dishes here, but overall I felt the food was wrapped in this veil of what I would call nouvelle pretense, meaning small portions with confusing terms meant first to impress the intellect, then maybe the palate.
Oh yes, I'd like the cured Chinook salmon smoked in a bed of pine needles and served under glass.
When I think of Italian food, I think of portion sizes bounding to the very edges of the plates. This felt more like eating in Paris than Rome. In Paris, you walk away hungry. In Rome, you walk away satisfied and full. My Italian grandmother would be embarrassed to serve these portions. There's a high degree of haphazard ostentatiousness about the place as well. Budino is pudding. So why use that term, which most people don't know, instead of just pudding? And if you're going to use the Italian word for pudding, why stop there? Why not go the full 9 yards and translate butterscotch as well, which would be caramello al burro? There were certain aspects of Esther's that I did enjoy, and I have to give them credit for, such as making pasta and bread from scratch. The bread and spreads alone are worth the trip here. However, the inconsistent menu that's constantly changing is a little bit of a letdown. When I find a dish I like, I want to be able to know I can order it time and time again. Esther's is a great place for those who can't or don't wish to make Italian food at home. But honestly, there are other Italian places in the city which give you the warm, welcoming feeling of being in an Italian household, sitting with loved ones, and sharing a homemade, abundant meal. You'll get a good meal made with quality ingredients at Esther's Kitchen. But if you're looking for an authentic Italian experience, this might not be the place for you. I know we're all guilty of watching YouTube videos and not participating. Please like, comment, subscribe, or even become a VIP member. It means a lot to us, and it helps us grow and to bring you more reviews. Until we eat again, bon appetit!